Today, I'm going to show you how to create a very cool scroll animation effect using Laxxx.js. Before we begin, I wanted to mention this video sponsor, Skillshare.com, which is an online learning community for creators with over 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. So whether you want to fuel your curiosity, your creativity, or even your career, Skillshare is the perfect place to do just that. For instance, you're about to watch my JavaScript video, but you could watch this full JavaScript course for free at Skillshare. Skillshare is also super affordable with an annual subscription of being less than $10 a month. But if you're one of the first 500 people to click on the link here in the description in YouTube, then you get the first 2 months 100% free. So join up. Hey everyone, Gary Simon of CourseCetera.com. So today we're going to take a look at Laxxx.js, which is a brand new scroll animation library, and they approach it differently than other libraries like GSAP or animate.js. Instead of writing out JavaScript code, you're specifying values in HTML data attributes, and it's surprisingly quite flexible. So the one that we're going to create is this, and it's very, very simple. So I think a lot of you are going to like this. And what's great about Laxxx.js is it's very lightweight. Here's their own demo. Ooh. So you can even animates backgrounds. So if you check out their page here on GitHub, you'll find that it's a very simple and lightweight. It's only 2 KB minified and zipped. Vanilla JavaScript plugin to create smooth and beautiful animations when you scroll. All right, so we're going to check all of that out, and I'm going to show you how to get it installed and set up and running so that you can start using it in your own projects. All right, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's get started. All right, so first, here we are at the Laxxx.js GitHub page, and there's some pretty solid information here as it pertains to getting it installed and how to actually use it. So it came pretty well documented. So the first thing that we're going to do is get it installed. Unfortunately, at the time of recording this, there was no CDN or the Content Delivery Network, which I would normally use to skip the NPM setup stuff. So we'll install it with NPM, and then we're just going to use script source to link directly to that JavaScript file in the node modules folder. I don't feel like setting up any type of bundler or anything like that. I just want to hop in right as quickly as possible. So I'm going to come out here. Let me just copy that real quick and to our console, and I'm going to type in, let's make a folder, make directory Laxxx and cd into it, npm init-y. Now npm, for those of you who may not know, is Node Package Manager. If you don't have that, go to nodejs.org, install it, then reload your command line or your console, and then you can run the Node Package Manager. This is just going to create a package.json file for us, and then we're going to paste in that command right here, npm install Laxxx.js, and we'll hit the save flag to save it as a development dependency within our package.json file. All right, so now I'm going to type in code and period, which will load up Visual Studio Code, which is a free code editor from Microsoft. It's what I use, and that's what a lot of other people use. Okay, so now I'm going to get an index.html. I'm going to get a folder, CSS, and we'll just put a main.sass file. And momentarily, I'll click on Watch Sass, and if you don't have this option, you're going to have to go to the plugins and click on Live Sass, type in it rather, and you want the Live Sass compiler. We're also going to want the live server right here as well, and we're going to use that momentarily. All right, so close that out, and I'm going to type !enter to get some quick boilerplate HTML. We're going to link up our style sheet, main.css, and there we go. Let's call this Laxxx. All right, so awesome stuff. Now at this point, before we start getting into Laxxx.js, I'm a designer, UI designer. I need things to look good. I don't just want to put a paragraph there and then start animating that. So what you can do if you don't want to follow along with this part, you can go to the CodePen link in the description of this YouTube video, and you'll have the project that we're about to create, and you can just copy the HTML from the HTML section of CodePen, paste it in here, and same thing with the Sass. All right, but I do want to get this set up so it looks half decent. So we're just going to have a series of 3 different section tags. So I'll just put section here, and they're going to have their own classes, at least the first 2 will. This is going to be intro because this is a scroll animation library. So while you can use it on like an initial part, above the fold that loads on the screen, I wanted to show it like the full scroll effect. So we're just going to have an initial section that's just going to say with a paragraph and a class of scroll-text, it will say scroll down. All right. Then we'll copy this real quick. Change the class name of this one to anim, as in animation. And then we're going to have an H1, and this will be animation. We're going to add our data attributes for Laxxx in here afterwards. We'll also have a paragraph with a class of DESE for description. And I'm going to just go ahead and copy and paste my description. And then we'll have a div with a class of box1. And then also, I'm going to hit Shift, Alt, and down, by the way, to replicate that line. A div class with a box of 2. All right. And then finally, one more time, we'll have a section. Nope. There we go. We'll have a section. Gary, stop screwing up. There we go. And we'll just delete this, and it's just going to be an empty section. And you'll see why based on the CSS. So that's all the HTML that we're going to have. So now we're going to go to our main.sass file. And at this point, I'm not going to hand type all this stuff. I will describe kind of what's happening. First, we're going to set the body rule set, setting the height to 100 viewport heights, margin 0, get rid of that default padding, making the color white and a font family, of course, to my very favorite font, Montserrat. If you don't have this installed on your machine, you're going to have to import it at the top or in the index.html file. Next, we're going to say just for all the sections, a height is going to be the 100% viewport height. So now let's define our initial section, our intro, which would be this one right here. So we're just setting the background here to this color. It's kind of like a desaturated. It's actually quite saturated, but it's a darker blue. Padding top, we're just putting at 10 EM. The height, we're just dealing with that. And so now if we save this and we go to Control B and right click, open with live server, we'll see this initial part. All right, so now we'll have our animation section, which is the section where all the animation is going to be taking place. So I'm going to open this up initially, copy this part. So this is section.anim, and we're setting the background color to something different from this part so they contrast well. Nothing else too exciting here. So inside of here, we're going to have a few other elements. We're going to have our H1. Again, nothing too exciting happening here. I'm just positioning absoluting these elements so that they can, I can position them well and position wherever I want, essentially. Same thing with our paragraph. And then we're going to have our box 1 and box 2, which are quite similar, but they're just kind of structured a little bit differently. All right, both position absolutes, and we're just adjusting the top and the left just to get them. This one has a rotation on it, and this one doesn't. So now that's all of the CSS that we have. So if we go back here, this is the default view of what the animation looks like. Or not the animation, but the end state or the beginning state, depending on how you set up Laxxx.js, of the animation. All right. So now let's go ahead and make this animate based on the scroll position with Laxxx.js. So the very first thing that we're going to do here is, again, we're just going to assume this is coming from a CDN, but really it's going to come from our node modules folder. All right. Right there. And then we'll just write in our JavaScript right here. All right, so first, this comes straight from their website just to get Laxx set up and running. This is straight from the GitHub page. All right. And this, just go ahead and set it and forget it, essentially. And now we can go ahead and start actually using it. And let me refer back to the documentation here. There's several different ways that you end up using it. So as it says, step 2, which we just completed, is adding this to the JavaScript. And then step 3 is to add attributes to HTML tags that you want to animate. So the way this works, though, is you have presets. So you have supported presets down here. You have the name of the preset, and you have strength values. Some of them don't have any, some of them do. And then you also have supported attribute keys. And so we're going to work with both of these just to see that these are just presets that are kind of just already baked in and ready to go. These are basic transforms that you can apply. You can apply multiple of these attributes to any of your elements. So opacity, translate XY, scale XY, skew XY, and rotate. You also have filters. So you can actually have blur, contrast, and brightness. All this stuff can be animated based on the scroll. You can also do the background position. You can even do custom presets as shown here. We're not going to do this, but still just refer to the documentation and you can create your own preset. And of course, that is to avoid duplicating your code if you're reusing things over and over. And there's also performance tips that you're going to want to check out, like avoid transforms on large elements like full screen backgrounds. I mean, that's of course going to affect the performance, especially on mobile devices, of course. And then just there's some other things here that you can pay attention to. So let's go ahead and try just adding a preset. So again, here's the presets, and you'll have to experiment to see what these are. Lazy, what is lazy? What's linger? Eager, spin in, spin out. Some of them are more self-explanatory. So let's come up here, and I guess we'll start with a box 1, that big old box that's rotated over here. This thing in the back. All right. So what we could do is we'll say we're going to use a preset. So we define data Laxxx-preset, and let's add a spin here. That was one of the presets. All right. So we can see now that it just spins. And if we go back to the documentation, there is a value. So the way we specify our own strength other than the default is to put a hyphen. And I'll just put 180, or the value that we can put in. So now it's not rotating quite as fast. Let me make sure that is the case. So I'll just put in like 65. Oh yeah, definitely a lot slower. Awesome. So I'll take that off, and let's go ahead and animate the second box. Actually, let's do the animation h1 tag. So what we can do here is I'm going to put another one just to experiment, another preset. So we'll say data -Laxxx-preset. And we'll do right to left, which is another one, except we're just going to put 0.1. And then also we can add in fade in. And well, let's wait until we do that because you can actually add multiple presets. So let's just check this first one. So we can see we put it on 0.1, and we can see how animation is the animation name is moving ever so slightly. You can probably even make it move less by putting like 0.05 or something like that. Now let's also make it fade in and out. So fade in and out is another preset. All right, so coming down, fades in right there, and then fades out. Awesome stuff. So let's keep on going here. How about our description? We'll do another preset right here, data-laxx-preset. And this time we'll do blur in and out, and also fade in and out as well. So it's going to blur and fade in and out at the same time. Again, you may not want to do all this crazy type of animation, but I just wanted to demonstrate what this thing can do. No, look at that. Very cool. Okay, so finally, let's work on this box over there, which is box 2. And we can work with specifically the basic transform properties that we have available. So if we go back here and we come down, supported attribute keys for transforms. So let's do a scale. All right, so the way this works, as shown in their documentation, is you put data-laxx and then the name of this right here. So it's data-laxx and then scale. Scale, make sure you put that hyphen there between X and Y for these values. And then you bind it to, right here, first the scroll position, which is the first value, and then the value. So you set it up, it's basically an array of values for you creating basically sequence animations if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and we'll put in data-laxx-scale, and we'll put in 0. Yeah, we'll put in 0, 0. So it's at the default scroll position, it's at 0 for the scale. And so if we save this just in and of itself, we will see that we don't see it anymore, right? All right, so then we'll put in a comma here, and we could say, we'll make it last, we'll say 400 pixels. So from 0 to 400, it will go from 0 to 1 for the scale. So we'll save it. Scroll down, and then there you can see it's lasting for 400 pixels. And what we can do is if we wanted that animation to take longer, we can say 1,000 pixels. Like that. And if you wanted to, let's say we'll make this 600, we can put it in a third option here, and we'll say, let's try 800 to 0 and see what happens here. Ugh. So that occurs a lot quicker. So the one way I like to do this, I want to structure this differently, is right here in the documentation. It says by default the scroll position is window.scroll-y, but you can use an element distance from the top of the screen instead. So you can either pass in a selector or set it to use itself. So we're going to add this attribute to this element right here, and then we kind of have to work in reverse with these values. So the way we'll do this is I'll say 700 and 0, because I want this to fade. I want this to scale into view and then stay on the screen for a while at the same size and then scale out. So we'll put in 500 and 1. So that's not the whole value, but I just want to show you. There it is. Then we can say after that 101. So the distance from the top, from the element itself and the top of the browser is shrinking. So at 100 pixels, it'll stay at 1, and then we'll say 0 and 0. So comes in, and then at 100 pixels, it's right there. This distance at the top, it goes bye-bye. All right, so as you can see, Laxxx.js is very easy to use, and as an added bonus, it's very lightweight as well and based on vanilla JavaScript, no other dependencies. All right, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, as always, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys really soon.